on. Chill. Chill.
Welcome, customers, scoundrels, aces out of time, and Mr. Freeze ripoffs to this, the 264th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 18th of July, 2018, and featuring Dragonfire. Written by Ian Briggs and starring Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, Bonnie Langford as Mel, and introducing Sophie Aldred as Ace. I'm your host for this season, Randy Ronson McCulloch. And with me on the panel tonight is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Strawberry Ramune.
Okay. Aaron Romeo Moon Burke. Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
The dragon! The dragon! The dragon! The dragon! The dragon! The dragon!
And Thomas Fireheart.
And I just realized I probably could have got like another hour of sleep, but oh well.
Just
Like flavor.
The news and come in late.
Oh no, like I forgot how long the actual serial was, and I realized, oh crap, I could have got like another hour sleep.
Half hour at least. Yeah, it's a 3 for instead of a 4 for. Anyway. Bill, Sylvia the Man in Black, might be with us tonight. He got called into work late, so he might be in later in the episode. Hopefully early enough to give his opinions, but we will see how that pans out.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting early, and there is not a lot of news. There's some, which is better than some weeks, but not a lot.
We're starting early, as in we're actually starting on time.
Yes, yeah, that's. You've got to understand, this is something new for us. Not starting 15 minutes late. It's like, wow, I actually don't have to add or subtract from the clock. This is going to be interesting. Wow, you guys.
The guys, the lava lakes in hell, they're frozen over.
All right, on tonight's show, we have birthdays and news, as usual. I do have something I want to add to what Bill talked about last week on Geek Talk. Since we have no Bill, we have no review of Shame. Then it's going to be the episode summary done by one of us, not me. And then the episode review, final thoughts, and ratings. So let's go on to birthdays, shall we? There's only 3 this week. Wow. And they're all writers. It's apparently writer week. So, and they're all from the last 2 days too. The first one on the 16th of July is Robert Banks Stewart, a writer for the 1975-76 season and the creator of the Zygons. He would have been 87, but he died in 2016 at the age of 84.
Still a good run.
Yep.
Moving forward to today, the 18th of July, is the birthday of Paul Cornell, writer in 2005 and 2007, particularly known for Human Nature, Family of Blood, and the creator of Bernice Summerfield turns 51. Also, today is Robert Sloman, writer from 1971 to 74. I believe he wrote 4 episodes. Would have been 92, but he died in 2005 at 79, just short of a good run.
And can I just give a shout out and say, happy birthday, Mom?
Okay.
Happy birthday, Tim's mom.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Robert, Paul, Robert, and Tim's mom. And from there, we move on from our birthdays to our lost stories.
Okay, and an Earthly Podcast is very sad to announce the death of William Hughes, the man who, as a boy, played the young master in 2007 when he looked into the untempered schism. William
Schism.
stopped schism. Schism?
It's schism.
Schism.
Okay.
I remember the episode and how they said it. It's the untempered
Okay.
schism.
All right, schism. William stopped acting following an unrelated appearance in the second series of Torchwood to pursue a sport career in boxing. He died in his hotel room on the Greek island of Corfu, where he was on holiday after passing his first year at Queen Mary University in London. Greek police are treating the death as a suicide. Well, we do know there is a connection to suicide and homicide via brain injury.
Yeah,
through,
but
like, football and boxing,
but
and
we
wrestling
honestly
and stuff.
we honestly don't know.
We don't know. There's no mention of him having had any severe injuries before this.
And he did win championships.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he was doing really good.
Yeah, and he had just passed his first year at Queen Mary, so it's like, why would he have decided now to off himself? I don't know. The whole thing's kind of suspicious.
Yeah, it sounds iffy to me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not there. I didn't see the crime scene. I don't know what's going on. All I know is that the police on the island are treating it as a suicide, and that's the most I've gotten. It doesn't mean it is. It doesn't mean it wasn't accidental. It could just mean that he, took too many pills accidentally. Woke up with a huge hangover, or hell, it could have been like when Jeremy Clarkson went on vacation and wound up with a bad case of pneumonia. You don't know what happened.
Yeah, I have to wait and find out. We're not going to hear it right now, sadly.
Yeah, they're not releasing any details. All right, so from that sad news, we do move on to the Series 11 news, of which we do have a couple of pieces for once. Tim?
Yes. The FIFA World Cup was never more important to Doctor Who fans as it was on Sunday, July 15th, as the broadcast of the World Cup finals brought not only the winner of the match, but the first trailer for the 11th series. Well, more of an extended teaser, really, as what the trailer did was introduce us to the new companions.
Yeah, so who here has seen this trailer?
Me.
I have.
Yeah, I have.
It's interesting in that it shows us absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
Yep. That's
Well,
pretty
it
much my
shows
feeling
people
too.
getting coffee, and
Yeah, no, but what I mean is, normally by this point,
By this
normally
point,
by-
we got little teases or something.
yeah, little teases for like the first 3-4 episodes, and usually a montage. Remember how we would see at Christmas? We would normally get in the upcoming season for like the first few episodes that show a few clips of it like they would normally.
Normally the Moffat would usually do like a little quickie montage, or
So would Davies.
I was going to say Davies would do a montage, but he would also set it to the Doctor and companions running away from like fire or something down a tunnel.
Now,
But
it's July.
they did do that. They did that. And that was the first couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And this literally is nothing but fluff.
Yeah, it's basically, let's show you the faces of the companions, all of which we have seen in publicity photos.
So we've told you nothing. Enjoy.
I mean, at the same time, I'm kind of glad they're not necessarily using clips from episodes, because, I mean, we had that whole thing where they basically spoiled John Sims coming back by showing clips of him and whatever.
That was stupid BBC.
That was BBC, essentially sticking their thumbs in their ears and not listening.
Yeah. Now, what bothers me is the fact that I was at least hoping that this would come with a date announcement.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even come with a date announcement. It doesn't even say coming in October in this, or is it just a generic Doctor Who coming soon?
What does that even mean? Give us something.
yeah.
I'm trying to schedule our next season of podcast, and I can't tell. It doesn't even have a coming soon. It just says Doctor Who at the end.
I was going to say, did they even say coming soon?
Yeah, it's nothing. It's basically trailer Wonder Bread.
Nothing. Absolutely
It's nothing but
nothing.
carbs and air.
You're
So stupid.
You could have given us just a little bit of stuff to go on. We would have made weeks of news out of a little bit of information, but there's nothing here.
Wonder Bread is more filling than this.
It's nothing but carbs and air.
Actually, it's not even carbs. It's just air.
So yeah, I'm a little disappointed in this trailer just because it doesn't give us anything even minorly substantial to go on. It's just
the 3 images that released for Godzilla recently are more telling than this trailer.
yeah. I mean, it's obvious that every scene that's shown here is staged for this trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gives us nothing to go on. All it really shows us is them in costume, which I believe there was a photo of them in costume. And doesn't even, deal with really anything of interest or relevance other than hey, the universe is calling. And hey, look, there's a brief picture of Jodie Whittaker. Okay.
Brief flash of Jodie Whittaker giving the camera a smile, and then she's gone.
Yep, done now. I was hoping for more. I'm still hoping we get more information tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. But is tomorrow the?
It's the Comic-Con panel.
It's the Comic-Con panel. Okay, yeah.
But
Hopefully after that they drop something.
I'm hoping so, but I'm afraid what we're gonna see is them showing this trailer again at Comic-Con, and then answering questions by avoiding them.
Which will make me want to walk right over there right now and punch them all in the head.
Of course, it would be hilarious if you saw phone footage from the panel and it's just 10 people in a row asking, "When's it airing? When's it airing?" They have to just deflect it every time.
Stop avoiding the question. When is it airing? Just a guy in a Dalek suit.
We can't tell you until September. Fuck you.
Good. Bad. He walks away.
I mean, that's not unusual that the BBC won't tell you the exact date it's airing till a month before, but I was hoping they'd get over that.
No. That's silly of you to think. Of course the BBC's never going to get over that. But you're paranoid psychopaths.
21st century BBC. All right.
Yep.
People like to be able to schedule around your shows, BBC.
Ahead of time. Sometimes months ahead of time. I mean, how often does Netflix tell you when a new series of Netflix stuff is coming out? Usually,
they
about
mention
3
it
months?
the week before, the month before, several months before, and a year before, some cases.
At least usually 3 months before is usually, I think, what it is.
At least a couple of months in, time.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is about the time you should be telling us when it should be coming out, BBC.
Which also means that any time now we should be getting teased again about Castlevania Season 2.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I don't know. Give
it to me.
It might be taking longer because I think they're supposed to have a longer production run on this one.
Yeah, this was supposed to be almost double the number of episodes, I believe.
Anyway, we're tangenting. Moving on, Tim.
Moving on. Another international network has been brought on board to Series 11. TVNZ, based in New Zealand, has announced that it is going to continue airing Doctor Who for Series 11. Kate Slater, the content head of TVNZ, had the following to say. Doctor Who has a special place in popular culture. It's a global juggernaut with a faithful following. This upcoming season marks the beginning of a new era for the extraordinary Time Lord, the first ever female Doctor at the helm of the TARDIS. The time felt right to bring the series back to TVNZ. We can't wait to share all the action, adventure, and humor the show is known and loved for with our viewers, as well as the exciting new twists and turns that are coming their way. Likewise, the BBC said, "We're delighted that Doctor Who is returning to its original New Zealand home, with TVNZ being an excellent partner to join us for the new era of the Doctor. Doctor Who Series 11 will air on TVNZ within a week after it airs in the UK. However, for those who can't wait, it will be available for streaming immediately after its UK broadcast, which we don't know when that will be.
All right. So, yep.
So pretty.
Go ahead, Thomas.
So pretty much it'll be sort of like how it works in Australia, except they have to wait a week, which is, ugh. We never have to do that. We always have to wait like a day, maybe.
Well, it says within a week.
Mm.
So it could be a day. It could be 4, 5, 6 days down the line. It sounds like they haven't decided where to put it in their lineup.
Yeah.
But as a compromise, they have said it will be available for streaming right after the UK broadcast for people that want it like immediately.
Again, BBC, it'd be nice if you give people dates so we can figure out where it fits in the lineup.
Yeah, that might be what they're waiting for, is to know when it's going to be, because there's a lot of rumors still floating around of Doctor Who moving to Sunday.
Sunday.
And that means if it's Sunday, that means that they wouldn't be able to air it until Monday in New Zealand because of the international date zone time difference stuff. And because of that, they might not, they're saying, them's like, we might want to wait till, Saturday the following week to air it so that it's on a weekend. That might be what their thought process is at this point, but they don't know for certain because the BBC hasn't told us.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, come on guys, release the date. All right. Moving on to books. Okay, so
those rectangular objects.
And moving on particularly to Candy Jar Books, which is a little vocal this week. Candy Jar Books is celebrating the 50th anniversary of Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart's first appearance with a book, The Brigadier, 50 Years of Lethbridge Stewart. The book summarizes all the appearances of the Brigadier on TV, book, video, book, and audio over the last 50 years and assembles them into some semblance of chronological order. At least as much as is humanly possible. This is a Doctor Who character after all, and, chronological is
chronological is not as hard as you'd think with Lethbridge Stewart. There's a few iffy points, though.
There are a few iffy points, but the problem is also that you're talking about BBC official, Bill Baggs, Big Finish, Virgin Books, and of course BBC Books, all of which have slightly different takes on what Lethbridge Stewart's timeline should be. And of course then Candy Jar Books' own take. So
hell of a collection, though.
Yeah. It's like, for chronology, it's got to be the Brigadier did this, or he might have done this.
And now you know why the Brigadier has that confused look on his face.
Okay, by the way, this novel can be pre-ordered from Candy Jar Books' website at this point. It's not released yet, but it is available for pre-order. In unrelated news, congratulations to Sean Alexander for winning Candy Jar Books' short story competition. His short story, Boys Don't Cry, will be included with 8 other professionally done stories in the Lethbridge Stewart short story collection, which is available now for pre-order from Candy Jar Books.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if we mentioned that contest or not, but yeah, it was a contest.
We've mentioned several other contests, and I know there was a couple of them going.
This is the first time I've actually seen a winner announced, though, so I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. All right, and now moving on to the Big Finish news. Tim.
Yes, right now. The 6th Doctor meets the 80s Cybermen in The Hour of the Cybermen this month in the Doctor Who main reign. Following up from the Haliax Rift in April, the 6th Doctor meets the new unit team and comes to do battle with his old foe. We gladly welcome David Banks to the cast of Big Finish, and will probably be reviewing this one in the next season or 2.
Again, we still don't know what our schedule is for next season because of the new episodes. So trying to slot when we're going to be able to throw Big Finish into our lineup is all big question marks at this point. We might be able to get to it the next season. We might not.
This is David Banks's...
If not, we're probably going to get to it like shortly into the season after. Either way, we are going to review this one because Matt will kill us.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is David Banks' big entry, right? Into
Yep.
Big Finish? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we must.
Yeah, we announced this one a couple of months ago, and I said that we would be reviewing it or Matt would kill us. I still stand by that statement.
You shall all be upgraded.
You can purchase Hour of the Cybermen now from Big Finish website for $14.99 CD or $12.99 download.
Yay.
The
All right.
Torchwood
Go
main range continues this week with Torchwood Instant Karma. Toshiko Sato finds out about a group with powers that let them explode the heads of the people they don't like. And they're using it! Torchwood Instant Karma is available now for the Big Finish website for $9.99 CD, $7.99 download.
Different.
All right. Different, yeah. Slightly frightening. Think about that. You look at somebody and you can make their head explode. Yeah.
Scanners, yay!
Yeah.
Scanners. I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Coming out today, Wotan returns to face Yvonne Hartman in Torchwood 1, Machines. Stories include The Law Machines by Matt Fitton, Blind Summit by Gareth David Lloyd, 9 to 5 by Tim Foley. Torchwood 1, Machines is available now for Big Finish for £20 CD, $15 download.
By the way, Blind Summit actually introduces the character of Ianto Jones. As in, this is his intro story to Torchwood.
Okay.
You know, why he wound up working for Torchwood 1, etc. So that's interesting, and I think it's the Law Machines that's mostly the Wotan one, but I could be wrong there.
Yeah.
So, their upcoming releases. The trailer for The Lady Christina has been released along with an episode syllabus. Episodes include It Takes a Thief by John Dorney, Skin Deep by James Goss, Portrait of a Lady by Tim Dawson, Death on the Mile by Donald McCleary. Lady Christina is available for pre-order from Big Finish for £23 CD or £20 for download.
Yep. I haven't listened to this trailer because of everything that Big Finish has been putting out for Doctor Who of late. This one actually appeals to me the least. Well, maybe not as small as the River Song stuff, but it's still pretty low on my priority. Not that I have anything particularly against Lady Christina D'Souza, but I really would have liked to see her like dealing with the Doctor in the main range in like individual episodes and stuff before getting her own spin-off series. Because all we've got of this character
Is one episode.
is the one shot, you know, movie length episode that they did, you know, back in 2009. I don't really think that was enough for her to get her own series of audios.
It's enough to get interest in her, but not that far, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Jenny, the Doctor's daughter, which they're also doing. Both, I think we should have seen them starting to show up in the various main range titles or something. Although Jenny might not have, you know, stating that she's the Doctor's daughter, but at least, you know, giving the character a little more time to flesh out before becoming star of their own series.
Yeah.
Which is funny in a way, because I always figured the fact that she survived was supposed to like lead to a spin-off.
No, it was literally Stephen Moffat going aside to Russell T Davies and saying he shouldn't kill the character. And it was mostly because of Moffat's belief that in Doctor Who nobody should die. And Russell T Davies put it in figuring that Moffat had an idea to use the character later in, you know, when he took over.
And instead just wasted it.
Instead, Moffat's like, nah, not gonna bother.
Like the pain in the neck he is.
Which, I guess, to be honest, considering some of what Moffat's run had, I'm probably kind of glad that we didn't.
Yeah, actually, in hindsight, yeah, it's better that he left Jenny and Christina alone. Because Lord knows what he would have done to them.
So, that really is it for our news. I mean, yeah, we did it in 24 minutes, and we talked about it a little bit, especially the trailer, and little bits here and there. But yeah, So moving on to our Geek Talk section.
Hmm.
Bill, what's that?
Geek Talk.
Bill talked last week about Voltron Season 6. I have actually caught up this week and watched both Seasons 5 and 6. And I quite enjoyed it. Yeah, I do see where Bill's going about. I am not so negative as Bill was about the last couple of seasons. But I do think Season 6 was a little bit of a step up. It really kind of it basically felt like a good, continuous animated drama, which I like. It's still kind of, it's for somebody who watched the original Voltron as a kid in the 80s. I can tell you that this is more involving. There's more character development. And it's more, it's basically more of, if you like kind of like the Young Justice style of animation of an ongoing story, this is going to be more your style than Voltron. On Voltron Defender of the Universe in the 80s, which was like 90% formula.
Yeah, as much as people will, let's say they like the original Voltron, we can also all admit that it was very formulaic, Monster of the Week stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I mean, if you look at Power Rangers, Sailor Moon, a lot of shows in a lot of anime or Japanese shows particularly tend to follow the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them to the point that you could set your watch by the plot of the story. I've said this many times about Power Rangers.
Yep.
You can set your watch by when they call for the Megazord in Power Rangers. You can pretty much pretty much glance at a Power Rangers episode and by what's going on know what time is going on. Sailor Moon, pretty much the same thing, except for like once a season they would break out of that formula and go into like dramatic mode, which was good. It showed they were capable of thinking outside the box. On the other hand, if we didn't have the formula, we would never have the term Monster of the Week, which
So it's you pick the poison.
Yeah, and Voltron was of the same cloth. It was very Monster of the Week. The bad guy, be it Lotor or what was the
Zarkon?
Yeah, Zarkon. Hagar would make them a Robeast. They would launch a coffin there, and then they would have to fight the Robeast, form Voltron, and defeat it. It was pretty much every single plot story. Up until like the finale, where it finally started to do something different. But this
probably
one,
because they were forced to end it because they're out of footage.
This one, I think we've only seen them use Robeast twice in 6 seasons.
Wow.
And instead it becomes more, drama or plot driven, kind of along the style of Space Battleship Yamato, which of course I'm a huge fan of, so awesome for me. And the thing is that it is done by DreamWorks, so this isn't really a Japanese production, but it feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's obvious. It's very obvious that whoever was given control of this show knew what they were doing and decided to take the best examples.
Yes.
Well, I got into a debate with someone on Facebook about how it wasn't Japanese animation, but it tried to mimic it really well. And someone was like, "Well, but it is Japanese animation. It's done by the same Korean company that did Avatar."
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't.
That's Avatar's an American animation too. It's just that they sell out to Korea to make the animation.
That's just about half the animation in the world is made in Korea.
Yeah, well, in Korea,
even Hanna-Barbera cartoons were sourced to Korea.
Oh yeah, Korea and Japan. There were some studios that did stuff in Japan. Do you know the company Sunrise that makes like every freaking Gundam series ever? Before they were doing that in the early 90s, many members of Sunrise were tasked to do certain episodes of Batman the Animated Series.
Mm-hmm.
There's one you wouldn't think of would have gone over here, but yes. Several Japanese and Korean companies were also hired to do episodes of Tiny Toon Adventures. So just because it's made over here doesn't qualify that. There's very specific things for what is called anime, which means that it's in Japan. The creators that write it, that are both writing it and drawing it, are all done in Japan.
Speaking of which, by the way,
Yeah.
going back to popular stuff from the 80s, like Voltron, everyone knows what Gynax is?
You mean
You
besides?
next?
You mean besides not Gynax anymore?
Well, originally their big claim to fame was they did the animation for Thundercats. There's parts of the company I know for that for sure. It was with them, and
I thought that was AIC.
I would double check
I
the video I
know-
saw, but I know it was a big company and it was already
I know
going.
Ghibli. I know the company that would later go on to be part of Ghibli did the opening animation. In fact,
Well, I know the fact that in Bubblegum Crisis, in one panel of Bubblegum Crisis, well, not one panel, but one 5
sequence,
seconds. Yeah, there is a billboard that shows Panthro from the Thundercats in there, and it's because one of the production team that was making Bubblegum Crisis was also one of the people that made Thundercat.
I believe it was one with a G. I was could have sworn it was Gynax, but I'd have to go back and visit the video. It's been about a week.
Also, it's possible the person that showed the video got it wrong too.
It was off of official DVD, so I would hope they got their facts right.
You never know. I mean, there's people talking about stuff that took place 30 years ago. It's also possible that all of us are correct, and the fact that the team that did the opening
the team
stills for
that did it
Thundercats
and the
split
opening
up and
and
wound up
all of
working
them
for
split,
Ghibli,
yeah.
Gynax, and AIC. That's also fully possible. But yes, there are a lot of companies that do, a lot of Korean companies that do animation, basically bread and butter animation for a lot of animation studios in the US, Japan, etc. So you shouldn't consider this a thing of quality. In fact, the animation on Voltron is very good. Is very good animation quality. Pretty much about the same quality that I see from the Space Battleship Yamato 2199-2202 series, which is very good. I highly recommend that, by the way. I can't really talk about it yet because it's not done, but yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend this. There is an episode, usually once a season, there is the comic relief episode, kind of like what Supernatural does, but this one in particular was basically the guys being silly, and it was a nice little stress relief episode. They reprogrammed a Garbot to basically be their level of mischievous prankster, and it was funny. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a stress relief episode, and this one was a bit, there was some, the other plot scenes were still serious, but then it would cut to, their level of insanity. So it was just like, okay, that's awesome. Speaking of that, I also managed to finally catch up on Supernatural on Netflix in the last couple weeks, and that included watching last season's Supernatural, including the episode Scooby Natural, which was fucking insane. I actually had to show it to Aaron.
it was amazing.
Yeah, it is probably
It was
the best.
greatest thing ever.
It was probably the best episode of Supernatural ever. In that one, the Dean and Sam, the main characters from Supernatural, get sucked into an episode of Scooby Doo, and it is an episode I recognized from Scooby Doo. And I'm just watching this, and it is the absolute. I mean, it's their comic relief episode, and I was on the floor. I've seen it 3 times now, and it's funny each time.
Which episode was it?
It's called Scooby Natural. It was like the 16th episode.
I mean, like, which episode of Scooby-Doo was it?
It was one
It
of
was
the
an
classic.
It was an actual episode.
Yeah, it was a classic episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?
Mm-hmm.
So it was like the 1969.
Yeah.
And
Who
it's
was the monster?
Yeah, that's really what should have waited for. Which one was it?
it's the gang gets called to this house that was basically Scooby's in the will of this old Southern colonel,
Oh, okay.
and they have to
don't
spend the
know.
night in basically what's a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean the plot at the end, it turns out that the lawyer that was doing this was actually the
Trying to
ghost
scare
of this
everyone
guy.
away so you
Yeah.
can make the money. Yep.
Dude, spoilers.
But
It's a
no,
60s
I can
cartoon.
tell.
Come on.
I can tell you that what's going on in Scooby Natural is a little bit different, because an actual ghost gets involved, like a real ghost, not a guy in a costume, a Sam and Dean style ghost. So, it's interesting to notice that it's been 50 years since Scooby-Doo premiered, pretty much, short of 49 years, either way. Still damn close. Frank Welker still is the voice of Fred Jones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every other character has been replaced.
Mostly
Or
because
they're-
most of them passed on, sadly.
No,
Casey Kasem.
just Casey Kasem. Everybody else is just retired.
Oh, and funny case note on that: the live-action guy that did the first Scooby-Doo movie is now the voice actor for Shaggy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Apparently,
Yeah,
he
we
owned that role, and he's still owning it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's the closest they can come, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, the original voice of Scooby-Doo was Don Messick. He died in 1997. Casey Kasem was the voice of Shaggy. He died in 2014. Frank Welker is still there, and if he ever dies, it will be a sad day.
Because that
in
officially means
animation
they're all
history.
gone. Yeah.
Well, no, just in general. Frank
Well-
Welker's voice acting filmography list goes on for a fucking mile.
Not surprised.
He has been doing voices and is still doing the voices for like everything. He's like, he's the American version of Megumi Hayashibara. The Japanese voice actress, which is in like every animated series, every anime series ever. Well, Frank Welker has been doing it longer than she has, and how old is this cat now?
Frank Welker?
72 years old. So he started Freddy when he was 23. And that's actually his first voice acting job.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. His first job was, hey, you're going to be this guy named Fred on Scooby-Doo.
Best known for Transformers movies.
He's best known for that. He's best known as the voice of Slimer.
And Megatron.
Well, yeah, that's Transformer movies. Yeah, he's best known as the voice of Megatron.
And basically any animal sound, like if they need someone to ADR like an animal sound, they'll bring in Frank Welker.
Oh yeah, yep. He's very good at that. So yeah, he's still there, and yeah, everyone else has been replaced, and it's the same cast that they currently have for the Scooby-Doo movies. Frank Welker, by the way, is now also the voice of Scooby-Doo. So figured, yeah, you've been with the show long enough. Can you do Scooby? But I was Scooby. Okay, Frank, you're hired.
Go on, Frank. We'll pay a double.
So yeah, that's
And then
if
he
you
does a
haven't seen
Scooby
that
laugh.
episode, it's on Netflix. It's worth a watch. It's hysterical. We were making references to it Monday at game before things got serious. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about this for so long, I am literally
we
killing
are
time
padding.
for. Yeah, I'm padding until Bill shows up.
Speaking of which, actually, I do have something slightly geeky I can add in.
Okay.
I finally have read the original short, actually not that short, but the original story of oh, my brain just fried.
And Matt's brain checked out.
Sorry, my brain completely fried. My brain can't remember names. You know I have the issues. But anyways, the Reanimator.
Okay.
I finally read all of the original Reanimator by Lovecraft. I have a big Lovecraft book I've been trying to work my way through.
Yeah, I want to borrow that. You know, it'll take me about 2 weeks.
I've bought.
Oh,
like,
I don't know, man. This thing's huge.
Matt, I read the Silmarillion in 2 weeks. I can read that.
Okay.
The Silmarillion is thick, and it reads like the freaking Bible. It is literally that dry.
800 some pages, but all right.
No.
Oh, that's a weekend read for me.
Mm.
With the size of a Bible?
What? No, I've read 1,300 pages in a weekend once.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
I
think that was to Green Angel Tower, the third in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. I got it on a Friday, had it done by a Monday.
So talking about the Reanimator really quickly. First thing to note that I found interesting is that it takes place in 18 teens. Not the 18 teens, 19 teens.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was
Very
the time that
turn of the century, yeah.
that was the time that he was, actually writing. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when you listened to the voice of the character, did you actually hear Jeffrey Combs in your head?
Actually, West doesn't talk that much.
Mm.
It's actually from the point of view of his assistant. For most of the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's mostly done from the point of view of his assistant. They first met when they were in college. Their first experiment in the reanimation happens out in a barn, outside of West's original attempts with animals, and having to get rid of them afterwards. Hmm?
I'm sorry, I was thinking of The Secret World and thinking that was kind of interesting.
And their first experiment disappears, to be honest. They think the experiment has failed. They go into the other room in the barn. They're cleaning up and everything. All of a sudden, they hear an inhuman scream from where they left the body, to which they ran out of the barn in a panic, knocked over an oil lamp, and set the barn on fire. But then it's later noted that at the same place where that body they exhumed originally came from, there's apparently ground marks like something tried to claw its way in. But from there, they didn't find a body or anything, so it just up and vanished. And then there's a couple more experiments. One was a man who was a boxer who got his neck or his nose broken or something. They used the chemical, didn't seem to work, buried him. He came back the next day with a kid's hand in his arm, in his mouth. So yeah, that turned out well.
Sounds like Lovecraft to me.
West apparently blew 06 shots from a revolver into it to finally kill it, supposedly, and reburied it. And then I'm trying to think. I think from there.
Don't spoiler the whole damn story, Matt.
Well, in short, things happen. They because this is also the 19 teens, they go into World War I for a while. And there's some stuff that ties in very heavily with the end from that. And then you get to the ending, and I believe the Reanimator had sequels, didn't it?
The movies?
Yeah.
There was, yes.
Yeah, there's no way this was going to have sequels. Just going to put that way. There was a very definite ending to West in this.
Yes, but the fact is that Hollywood will find a way to make a sequel.
Especially in the 80s.
If they think the movie's profitable, they will find a way to make a sequel, and find a way to bring the original actor back, like his descendant or a relative finds his notes and reanimates him.
That's more of a 1970s thing, but yeah.
I'm just giving possibilities. Just one theory of what a Hollywood scriptwriter would try to do to bring a character back.
And I will say that there are a few other little elements that I can see where they came to play in the movie. I have not actually seen the movie yet myself, but I know of bits and pieces.
Definitely time to see the movie then.
It's definitely not time to see the movie and sequels now that I've read the original.
I know that it has been on Netflix because I know I've seen it there.
I'll
Netflix
take a
or
quick
Hulu or
peek.
something. I don't know if it's there now. I would definitely
Yeah.
check around October.
Well, since I
But,
just read it, it's still worth peeking around. Actually, I shouldn't go to Netflix right now anyways because I believe it tries to play a video now, which is really annoying.
Either way, it would be taking your bandwidth, and you don't want that.
Yeah. Well, the main page wouldn't take that much bandwidth, but trying to go into a video would, yes.
No, seriously, I would love to read most of original Lovecraft because I don't think I've read any of it. Just,
Well,
summaries.
let me go to my contents in the book. I have the gigantic book in my lap right now. The first thing I read was Dagon, which is just a little poem. Actually, no, Dagon was the bigger thing. The thing before that was a poem.
The only thing of Lovecraft I've read is Shadows over Innsmouth.
Yeah, I haven't read any of it.
I think that's in here. Again, trying to find it. There it is.
When I would have read it was high school, and I wasn't big on horror in high school. I was more of a sci-fi fanatic.
Yeah, Night Gaunts is a poem. There's Dagon, which also was translated into a movie. The Statement of Randolph Carter, which was an interesting one. The Doom That Came to Sarnath, which was actually a prehistory story from Lovecraft, which is interesting. The Cats of Ulthar, The Nameless City, which that rings an interesting bell too. And then Herbert West Reanimators, what I just finished reading.
Well, we know the fact that Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard were friends.
Yes, they were friends, and I'm not surprised that they would take possibly some little cliff notes from each other and go, hey, nudge, nudge.
They both deliberately did.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of people consider Lovecraft and Howard's work to be the first actual shared universe.
Quite possibly, in many respects.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's any popular ones in here otherwise. Call of Cthulhu starts at page 201.
Definitely a read.
Dunwich Horror at
Definitely
264. From Beyond at 387. The Mountains of Madness at 422. Shadow over Innsmouth, 504.
So yeah, it sounds like it's just full of goodness that must be read.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much, it says on the cover, Necronomicon, the best weird tales of H.P. Lovecraft. So it's basically a best of collection.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Like I said, I've not read any of that because when I was avidly reading, I was reading
not sure
Clark
if they have
and
more
Bradbury.
I'm not sure if they have more copies there, but I do know I picked this up at Barnes & Noble in Madison. So they might have reordered it, I don't know.
I can't afford it right now anyway because I've got to save all my money for GeekCon. Provided, $16. I'm not just day passing it. Matt, right now I can't even afford games off of the frickin' summer Steam sales list.
Is the summer sale still going on? I think that ended.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to buy any of it. I'm sitting there. I was thinking, the day before the beginning of July, I could probably, if Fallout 4 was on the sales list, I could probably buy that. No freaking power bill.
Happens.
Yeah.
Especially in summer.
With air conditioning, yeah.
So anyway, anyone else? Or are we going to move on?
Yeah, we're past the 45 mark. I don't think we can wait for Bill much longer.
If he happens to pop in while we're still reviewing, we can always get him to catch up.
So summary. Who wants to do a summary?
No one else
Oh,
wants
doesn't
to.
everybody volunteer at once?
I was gonna say if no one else wants
I
to.
didn't want to jump on anyone's toes,
Well, actually, weren't you the last one before Randy, Tim?
I think I might have been, yeah.
I
See,
think it was
I'd still-
Tim, then me, then Randy.
Oh, was it you before Randy? Okay. So actually, it's technically my turn.
Okay.
Let's go,
By that
Matt.
logic.
Let's go.
Right, trying to think. Now, how did this start again? Okay, yeah, I think I recall now.
You ready?
Yep.
All
Alright.
right.
And going.
And go.
All right, so the story basically kicks off that the doctor is trailing, I believe, as a distress signal or something like that. Some
No,
sort of beacon.
it starts with the bad guy, actually.
Wow, I'm already doing terrible.
Yeah. The bad guy gets a whole bunch of new recruits to try
the new
join.
recruits. So yeah, they usher in a whole bunch of new recruits into this facility, which is full of smoke, and we realize that whatever crowns stands for money, all of them have been sold off for 14 crowns each, and that they are going to be part of a military group forcibly. And they're going to be put into cryosleep, which means that also this particular kind of cryosleep, they're going to lose all their memories. One of them tries to defect and runs away. He is then grabbed by the main villain, who has the icy touch of death. Then we go to the doctor and Mel, and they're apparently tracking something. I forget what it was now.
I didn't remember them tracking anything. I just
I
remember
thought they were
them
tracking
showing
some
up
sort of
and-
signal, and they decided to land. That's what I recall of it.
I just remember them showing up randomly and the doctor being interested in freezer bins.
Yeah, and then they decide to check the freezer bins, and they run around a little bit to get to know the locals. As they stop at essentially a restaurant for some smoothies, they suddenly notice Blix, and they've met him before during the trial of the Time Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Glitz.
Yeah, Glitz. And Glitz obviously doesn't recognize the doctor, although the doctor's like, well, more or less the same internals. And he's like, oh, okay. And just rolls with it. What they find out is that he's trying to lure them into some sort of trick of his to try and make a whole bunch of money because he's huge in debt with the local bad guys, and they want his ship if he can't pay up. And so what he tries to pass it off as just like, oh, this is just going to be a friendly little adventure thing, and it's like, that's for anybody. Okay, fine. To which they also meet the waitress Ace, who was running around trying to keep up with all the orders. And when the doctor and Glitz leave to go on their search for the supposed dragon in the frozen beneath of the city, Ace gets annoyed with one of the patrons who's complaining about lumps in the smoothie, to which she dumps the smoothie over her head. The guy fires her and tries to calm down the patron, to which she then dumps another cup of stuff over his head before leaving. They stop at Ace and Mel stop at her apartment to grab some explosives really quick, and they start to head off to follow the doctor and Glitz. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Glitz have found some interesting things and aren't quite sure what to make of all of it because it's some unusual technology that doesn't seem to quite fit the above city. But in particular, the Doctor is very enthused to try and find these singing trees, to which they find singing ice piles, I guess, because apparently they must be underneath those somehow. And as they're adventuring around, Ace and Mel, still on their own, bump into what is supposedly the dragon first, as it shoots laser beams at them. They're not sure what to quite make of the laser beams, but they do figure out very quickly that they should probably stay away from the creature. They go running off in the panic while the Doctor tries to reach a ledge and gets himself caught in the end of the first episode. The beginning of the next episode, Glitz comes over to save the Doctor, and then eventually they make their way down the cliff. And I forget what all happens down there. Gosh, it becomes a muddled mess for a few minutes. I think eventually the two parties meet up, and they do encounter the dragon thing. Oh yeah, and they're also trying to avoid the Glitz's men who are sent down to try and destroy the mold so they can just use his ship and then send people out of the city after they hopefully will find an artifact that they want. Or to hurry up finding the artifact which the dragon is supposedly protecting. After seeing a hologram and finding out some backstory on the villains, they also figure out that the dragon is not only protecting the treasure, but is the treasure as its head opens up and reveals a giant crystal. The crystal is what the city needs in order to power itself back into an actual space vehicle and allow the villain to escape and go back to his home planet. Long story short, the dragon stops Glitz's men, what's left of them that aren't destroyed by Nitro 9, and the rest of them try to go back to the main villain to try and stop him or talk him out of it, to which he's obviously not going to listen. He sends two of his best guard after some more of his henchmen tried to attack and failed at killing him by overheating. And they go down there and do kill the dragon and eventually remove its head. However, upon removing the head, the crystal comes up and kills them all with a powerful shock. The Doctor finally decides that they need to use the crystal in order to bargain their way off the spaceship. Glitz tries to get back to his ship, but just sees it as it's taken off at the last minute, and everyone who was scared on board from the rest of the supposed city all get blown up in an explosion that also takes out his old ship. They are forced to take everything to the main villain. They give him the crystal that he wants in order to save Ace, who is captured by him. And as he is planning to make his revenge against his own people, he suddenly realizes, thanks to the Doctor, that his planet's no longer there. In a fit of a panic, he opens up the window to try and have a look, and is not only blinded by the light, but seared into a pile of nothing by his clothes in a matter of seconds. They manage to stop the ship. Glitz decides to take over and renames it after his old one, and the rest of the party started to leave. Mel decides she wants to stay behind to keep an eye on Glitz and keep him out of trouble, and Ace wants to come along with the Doctor and finally actually see the universe like she wanted to. That's
all right,
pretty
that
much
everything?
it.
Yeah, so that was about 7 minutes, Matt.
Just a bit shy. Again, I don't know what happened there. I thought I had, and then there's parts that I'm just like, okay, my memory's completely muddled for some reason. Just a lot of stuff happened in the middle that didn't quite collage.
Yeah, you kind of went around back to the middle and then back to the end again. All right, so since Bill still isn't here, we're going to go on with our review. And Tim, you are up first. What did you like about this episode, Serial?
Oh, this was, I love this episode so much, too many things. What I really liked, or what really stood out to me, was the photography. Especially, like, all the wide the wide shots that, like, let you, like, take in the whole set, the settings of, like, the double layers and, like, with the fog and the ice and, like, the crystals, and then there's the photography of like the singing trees, and it was just a well shot episode. I think one of the better shot episodes of Classic Who I've seen.
All right. Thomas, how about you?
I actually really like the interaction between Mel and Ace. To the point that when they're having like this one conversation in, I think it's episode 2, might have been episode 3. I was like, wow, if only they'd like stuck to having these two together for a while before Mel left. Because I keep hearing all this stuff because I think this is like my first exposure to Mel. So everything I've heard was like, well, yeah, she screams at one time, but like I didn't really get the annoying stuff of her that people seem to go on about, because she was like, she had Ace to work off at least.
I will
Watch-
say
Which
this
is
is
on
a light Mel episode.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
Mel Stream Light episode because she only did it once. Watch Time and the Ronnie.
Watch Time in the Ronnie where she will do it about 5 times in an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, like generally, I enjoyed those two characters interacting, and it did make me like wish that they'd been able to do something on the show. I don't know if they ever got a chance to do anything with Big Finisher or whatever.
Probably.
I
but,
think they've actually done a lot back and forth between the two of them on Big Finish.
Hmm.
The Seventh Doctor seems to flip flop between the two of them a lot.
It would not surprise us. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Anything else, or was that it?
That was it, yeah.
Okay, Matt.
General thing that I liked about the episode, it's not even just that pair. I liked all the interactions between our main characters, Glitz, Mel, Ace, and the Doctor. Each and every one of them had their own little unique chemistry as a group, and as a whole, they were really interesting to watch them play off one another. Especially towards the end, where Glitz is like, "Honestly, guys, I'm not trying to fool you, and I'm not trying to dismay you. You just wait here. I'll come back with explosives." Just please, so we don't lose the group. Kind of a moment.
Yeah, but we never know if Blitz is telling the truth when he said that or not.
We're not quite sure, but he does seem to be a little more honest about it at that point. Because he's already in this mess. If anyone's going to set up explosives and get them out of it, it's going to be Ace anyway.
Yeah.
Ace, our resident pyro. Yeah. All right. Aaron, how about you?
I actually kind of like the costuming. I mean, yeah, it's very kind of late 80s, early 90s, but at the same time, I kind of liked, for example, the wealthy woman's costume where she's walking around. She actually seems like she's dressed appropriately to be on an ice planet resort type of deal. Like,
Kinda.
I think that's my other. Well, that's a different complaint for a different time. But for the most part, I really kind of enjoyed it. Everyone had kind of a unique look, and the denizens, the background characters, all kind of had their own personalities and kind of stood out too, almost like the Star Wars cantina scenes and stuff that you see.
Oh, that's obviously where they got the whole idea of the
Mhm.
space diner.
Mm-hmm.
And the little tech muppet.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just watched that that scene. It's like, oh yeah, they're basically, oh yeah, let's do the Star Wars cantina at least to the best of our budget.
Yeah.
And I think they did very well.
Yeah, I think it went over pretty well too.
All right, so I liked the writing more or less. Because a lot of those dialogue scenes were written in. There are a few things I don't like, but the pacing seemed to be okay. The plot was coherent,
Mhm.
regardless of Matt's confusion.
Like I said, a lot of the paths just kept crisscrossing a lot towards that middle.
Yeah, I was able to follow it, though.
I was able to follow it, but I've seemed to have lost it over the last, 5 or so hours.
I was able to follow it. It's pretty good. There's a couple things I find questionable, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about what we didn't like about this serial. And Tim, you are up first.
Okay. I was intrigued by the character of the little girl with the teddy bear, but I was disappointed that that had no payoff or denouement or anything.
Yeah. That actually really bugged the hell out of me too. I'm like, oh, well, clearly this character's got something going on for it, but then no, it doesn't go anywhere.
Goes nowhere, does nothing.
Yeah, it was mostly just to make a sympathetic innocent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, when
I
they-
thought like they were leading into like she is the treasure.
No, that would have been way too. I would have started gagging on that one.
Yeah, like I even thought it was just like, oh, maybe she's like, she looks like a kid, but she's actually been here the whole time that he has, and all this shit and whatever. Like she's got something to do with it. But then it's like, no, she's just kind of there to fill time.
She's there to fill time and counterpoint. And here's the thing: if they had shown the fact that she had gotten killed, that would have been, like the doctor had seen it, or somebody or Ace or Mel or somebody, that at least would have been an emotional crux. But apparently, the BBC has issues with showing kids killed in Doctor Who in the 80s. Probably thanks to Mary Whithouse.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Because you also, if you guys remember Remembrance of the Daleks, who's the only survivor of the entire Dalek massacring everybody? The little girl that gets possessed.
Yeah.
So I, honest to God, think that they had trouble killing kids. I honestly think the BBC said, no, you can't do that because we'll get in trouble. So I suspect an earlier version of the script had them getting killed, but they had to change it because the BBC went, no, can't do it. And so while they didn't completely write her out, they didn't do what they wanted to with her. That's my opinion anyway. This is pure speculation.
Speculation, but it's a possibility.
Based on existing evidence. So really kind of a theorem.
A Who theorem.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for invoking Matt Cat's lawsuit.
Thanks for.
Okay, so Thomas, how about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much just like I just chimed in when Tim was doing his because I knew that I had nothing else.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to pass.
All right. All right, so we're up to Matt.
All right. There's a few choices in, I don't know if it's set design or what, where things get kind of baffled and muffled. Like, I understand, like, for instance, the cliffhanger to episode 1 is that he's trying to get to another ledge, but you really don't see any reachable ledge. It's like, what the heck happened here?
Yeah.
It's like he randomly climbs up there and decides to go, yeah, I'll talk about that later.
And also, with the diner, that with everything being said about some of the good stuff about it, the bad thing is I noticed that there's nothing but bland-ass gray walls everywhere.
Well, it's supposed to be an ice world, so the decor is ice world, and the problem is that's all gray and white.
Ugh.
So everything in the entire thing is gray. It's Star Trek: The Motion Picture Syndrome.
Kinda, yeah. It was just like a lot of those interiors were just terrible. Then when they finally get to the lower cities, when you start to actually see them put some effort into it.
I honestly think the outfits should have been more colorful to offset the gray. That's kind of how they fixed the Enterprise in Star Trek, because when Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out, the main issue people had were the Enterprise is all gray. I mean, the doors are gray, the walls are gray. The seats are gray, everything's gray, and then the uniforms are gray. So instead of having to redress the entire Enterprise for Star Trek 2, because that would have meant new models, new sets, new everything, they changed a few controls to make them more colorful, and they added the crimson uniforms, and it worked.
Yeah, that made them really pop.
Yeah, it worked well. So if they had done the same thing, God, our sets are all gray and white, and that, let's go away from pastels for the colors. Let's do some scarlets and some,
Let's do some big things that pop. And actually, it's not even so much that even the background was that bland. Now that I'm looking at still of it, because they had like some pictures of fruit and stuff, but also some of the monsters were really bland looking. Lots of grays and silvers and stuff going on in there. So yeah, that didn't help either. Because it's a combination of things that just kind of muddled stuff a little bit here and there.
So, Aaron, how about you? What did you not like overall about the episode?
Long thought.
I felt that some of the humor kind of fell flat. Like the alien parody that they tried to do.
The what? The what?
They tried to do a parody of Aliens. James Cameron's Aliens.
Okay, I apparently missed that.
Yeah, it's where they attach the tracker onto the gigantic ass guns. They're basically mimicking the Marines walking around. They're all around us. They're all around us. I don't know where they're at.
I don't know if that was meant to be a parody or if that was just a ripoff.
It definitely was. It was definitely a parody. They didn't have the technology to actually show you a little sonar screen.
Actually, I did see that sonar that did have different blinking lights, and by the time they got to that scene, it was all of it flashing. So there's a little something there, but they didn't give you much to go with. Is the problem?
Yeah, that's kind of why it fell flat. Is they didn't have the props, and
they had the prop, but they didn't give you the shots.
Hiding under the grate too, like Newt. You got the little girl.
Yeah, the little girl pseudo Newt. Yeah.
I mean, it was an interesting attempt, at least, but it didn't quite have the oomph or the special effects to have the impact.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they didn't do close-ups because they didn't have time for the effects. Is also a thing I'm wondering.
So the little girl's name, by the way, was Stellar.
Yeah. I thought it was Stella, but
no, it's Stellar. I'm looking at credits.
But yeah, trying to think of something else. I think Sabalon kind of patting himself on the back too is another point where the humor kind of fell flat, where we're supposed to be like, oh well, he's so sly, he just sold his own crew into slavery, and it was just like, wow, you just sold a bunch of people into slavery, you're an asshole.
That's kind of the point. That's kind of the point.
That's kind of the point, and that's why the Doctor didn't want anything to do with him after that point.
Yeah, he's basically an immoral asshole. I mean, we learned that in Trial of the Time Lord, but that was just to reaffirm that this guy is basically has no moral scruples at all.
Yeah.
Only what's best for Glitz is best for him.
Okay, so I guess it's me, and what I didn't like is Ace's characterization in this. Not all of it, but the point that they're using Ace as an exclamation, like as basically her Robin statement. Her holy whatever is basically her going Ace, and it's like no.
Cringe.
Fortunately, by the time the next season rolled around, they figured out that they should tone that down. I think she still said the occasional odd phrase, but using Ace every time she did something, I think they replaced it with Wicked, which was a lot better. I could get behind Wicked, but her basically using her nickname as her exclamation, no, that was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Also, her getting away with calling him the Doctor Professor all the time.
Oh well, that continued. that continued throughout the next two seasons.
Apparently, she got like a hell of a lot of hate mail about that.
Not surprised. The first episodes you're still trying to feel out the character, and obviously they knew where to go from there, which was to solve some of the issues that became prevalent.
She got a lot of hate mail for what?
For calling the Doctor the Professor.
Oh,
yeah, but
really?
that was an ongoing gag.
Yeah.
I mean,
screw the haters.
Even here, when they would do pledge breaks for like our public television, because they would have Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred do pledge breaks, little things. It's just like Professor, but yeah, that's me. Yeah, that was their gag.
Yeah.
So,
it's a gag. Like she only calls him the Doctor when the shit hits the fan.
Correct.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, it's just Professor. Yeah.
Mm.
And of course, once they got into like Bill Baggs stuff, he became the Professor, so they wouldn't infringe copyright. and she became Dorothy. Yeah.
Against her
Which,
will.
by the way, the fact that her name is Dorothy is a deliberate reference to the Wizard of Oz.
I was wondering a bit because, yeah.
Yeah.
Whisked away into another world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now favorite scene. So,
Ooh.
Tim, you're first.
Okay.
Boy, Bill may miss the whole enchilada.
All right. I think I might be stealing someone's, but oh well. My favorite scene is a scene where the doctor goes and distracts the guard with.
Yes, that would have been mine.
Damn it!
I think that's about everybody's favorite scene.
He's like, well, what's your attitude towards the nature of existence? Do you hold any
Yes.
strong theological opinions? I think you'll find most educated people regard mythical convictions as fundamentally animistic.
Can I just say that is the most Douglas Adamsy scene ever done in Doctor Who, and that includes the episodes written by Douglas Adams.
Yeah. Yeah, you just watch as this conversation starts to actually slowly kick off, and then it just goes full-blown conversation, and the doctor's just like, mm-hmm.
It's very similar in feel to when Ford Prefect goes up to a Vogon guard. Only, at least at this point, it does go a little different, but yeah. This was complete. It was a bit surprising in the fact that that the guard does go off on this whole intellectual tangent like this, considering it's a guard, and it's just.
And even the guard mentions it's so hard to find intelligent conversations around here.
It is, to me, it is the absolute. Let's take what you'd expect to happen and let's just turn it on its head, which is pretty much a Douglas Adams trademark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who Ian Briggs is. But that was fucking brilliant.
Who is the guard?
Interesting thing is, I think this is like the first story he wrote for Doctor Who as well. So.
No. Oh yeah, yes it is, because he also did The Curse of Fenric later. Yep.
And who's the guard, by the way, too? Because he totally sold that.
Mm-hmm.
He totally sold that. I'm not getting into this conversation. Then slowly he gets built into it.
I don't know, because I don't have a name for him.
Dang. We need a cast list for this episode.
Yeah.
I have a cast list. The thing is, there isn't one that's just labeled as the guard. So the guard has a name.
Or the or like certain type of guard. So there's no just the guard or guard 5 or whatever.
No.
Hmm.
I'm trying to see in the episode summary if they give him a name. Which episode was that in? That was in 1?
That was in episode 2, wasn't it?
I think it was in 2 because it was after the whole cliffhanger thing.
Yeah, it was after the cliffhanger.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to get to Glitz's ship.
Yeah.
Okay. I do not see.
Any mentioned by name?
No mention by name. No, actually, they don't even mention that scene in the plot summary.
Ouch.
So yeah, I can't find the name of the guy, but whoever he was brilliant. That is, I think, probably the best scene in the entire episode.
Probably one of the best. Yes, definitely one of the better ones. One of the out of nowhere best stolen scene. Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody have any runner-up scenes? Thomas?
Well, I guess I already skipped before, so I don't really want to have to skip twice. So, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the moment Ace and Mel have where essentially Ace is like giving her backstory and giving her like giving her real name over and stuff like that.
Okay. It's a good scene. I don't think it's particularly memorable in my opinion, but it's decent.
Mm-hmm.
You're at scenes already?
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
I was actually wondering if you would show up just in time for me to do the next week's thing, and we were going to have to put this in your entire. You were going to go deeper into the review of Shame. I mean, you're already deep in that pit.
Yeah.
And you obviously didn't get to do one this week, so that's going to be held over.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're up to favorite scenes already. So we will catch you up really quickly here on what you liked about the episode, Bill.
What I liked, I would say, would be the interaction between Mel and Ace. I think it's the only episode where you really get it, and I feel like I like Mel more in this episode than I in a lot of other episodes. And it's good to see the two play off of each other because you don't really get to see that until the new big finishes that I haven't listened to yet.
Yep, that's pretty much treading Thomas's territory on that.
Mhm.
Okay, what did you dislike? Let's see if you hit somebody else's.
Probably, I would say the Doctor's casual acceptance of slavery. It kind of pervades the entire thing, and every time it's just, really?
I don't think anybody said that specifically, but it was brought up.
Yeah.
It was brought up that
Basically
Doctor really
about
didn't want
how-
to do anything with Glitz after it was mentioned. Yeah.
Also, how Sabalon Glitz kind of was so flippant about selling his crew off. He acted like he was so much smarter than them because he was able to enslave them, and they were the suckers who fell for it.
I believe that from Glitz, but the Doctor barely reacted to that, and he's just
The
Well,
doctor.
He
the doctor
initially reacted to it. He turned away and wanted nothing to do with him.
mhm.
Yeah, he was kind of disgusted. But, he also might have been an effect of knowing the era can't change it because it's something that's very prevalent.
That was kind of the justification I told myself, but the fact that it came up in so many different ways still made it a sore spot.
So, favorite scene. I want to see if you hit the scene that pretty much everybody here decided was its favorite scene, and that's where we're on, by the way.
Favorites. I'm trying to remember if I had one picked out. I'm sure somebody else picked this one. The milkshake.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
As somebody who works in fast food, I cheer every time I see that scene.
Okay.
I could totally understand that. Yes, as also someone who also used to work in fast food.
That was something I meant to do. To correct you from your summary, Matt. Those weren't smoothies; they were milkshakes. This was the 80s.
Milkshakes.
Smoothies hadn't been invented yet.
She complained that there was ice cream in her milkshake.
Mm-hmm. That was too lumpy.
Here's some lumps.
Personally, I like lumps in my milkshakes, but mine tend to be hot fudge and caramel.
3 lumps, please. Bang, bang, bang.
But no, the one that Tim mentioned, and we all kind of went dang to, was the one the doctor tries to distract this guard by basically asking him.
What is your theory on the nature of existence?
Yeah, and the fact that the guard actually responds in kind was like the most Douglas Adams moment in the entire series of Doctor Who.
I get that. My reaction to that one, it feels like watching Star Trek technobabble, because I'm 90% certain that they didn't seem to be responding to each other. They just seem to be spouting off random philosophic concepts. Unless there's a deeper...
I followed it.
No, I followed it for the most part too.
Yeah.
It could be me, but it seemed to me like they were not saying things that were particularly relevant to what they were responding to.
I followed it. Apparently Matt followed it.
I followed it until that last bit where the doctor's just like as confused as me and just like, yes.
Yeah. When the guard goes on to a further topic and the doctor's like, I have no idea what you're talking about now. That was the point I lost the conversation too.
Like particularly the one where he's like it was like, an idea can be philosophically valid without something, and then the Doctor then jumps to the idea that an idea must exist before a thing can exist, and I didn't see any connection between those two statements.
I got it.
Again, yeah, I was following it. I forget what all the criteria was, but yeah, I was following for the most part to that last bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find that quote directly, but no, I'm not finding it.
I think Tim has the best memory of it of all of us.
Yeah.
I think it's like something about the Doctor's like excitedly like. So before Plato existed, someone had to have thought of Plato or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Or I think it was must have had the idea of Plato.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, for me, I found it relevant. I liked it. I'm just
I was bemused. Yes.
Okay, so I just got the quote right here.
Ah.
It's like, excuse me, what's your attitude towards the nature of existence? For example, do you hold any strong theological opinions? I think you'll find most educated people regard mythical convictions as fundamentally animistic. I see, that's a very interesting concept. Personally, I find most experiences border on the existential. Well, how do you reconcile that with the empirical critical belief that the experience is at the root of all phenomena? I think you'll find that a concept can be philosophically valid even if theologically meaningless. So, what you're saying is that before Plato existed, someone had to have the idea of Plato. Oh, you've no idea what a relief it is for me to have such a stimulating philosophical discussion.
So can we get flagged for reciting a scene?
Nope. As long as it's not the exact same audio.
yeah.
There are so few intellectuals about these days. Tell me, what do you think of the assertion that the semiotic thickness of a performed text varies according to the redundancy of auxiliary performance codes?
And this is
Yes.
the point I lost the conversation.
Of course, the whole thing about animism is kind of interesting too. I mean, provided you know what animism
Don't
is.
get me wrong, it starts to get really thick, but yeah. I followed most of those ideas.
It is kind of tag teaming ideas. It's not really a truly deep philosophical.
Right. Yeah.
It is
I get
people
what Bill
using
is
big
trying
words
to
to try and
say.
make
It's-
themselves sound
And
overly philosophical.
I think it's a combination of the Doctor is just saying whatever he can to continue the distraction, and the fact that I feel like someone wanted to write a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah, it
Like I
was-
said, it felt more Douglas Adams.
Or
than
more
Monty
Douglas Adams skit, yeah.
Which the reason I find that interesting, of course, is that this is done under John Nathan Turner, the man who fired Douglas Adams for his humor being too sophomoric. Yeah.
Well, no self-mark if it smacked him upside the head of a trout.
Yeah.
Very big trout.
Of course, the thing is, apparently what John Nathan Turner wanted was more action and depression. Yeah.
Because that's totally winning over the viewers.
It was, mind you, it was at the time. The problem was when he decided to do that was the point that it started with that particular.
There started to be a crackdown on it, yeah.
Yeah, it started to die out.
Mm.
That was, I mean, he took over like during the final season of Blake 7, and that was kind of the end of the dystopian fandom in Britain. Kind of died out much after that. But by this point, I think by 87, we had already seen the first season of Red Dwarf,
Mm-hmm.
which was definitely the lighter side of British science fiction. You cannot watch Red Dwarf and tell you and go, oh yeah, British science fiction is always this serious, depressing shit. No, you can't say that after watching Red Dwarf. So.
Holly, you're great. About what? You heard.
So this is them trying to bring back comedy, and I just like that scene. All right. So
Speaking of
Matt,
this
how about
scene,
you? Did you
It's down to me. The scene itself kind of comes out of nowhere, but I love the effect of face melt.
Oh, them trying to do Raiders.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
It wasn't the most effective thought out scene, but it was the effect itself was actually really well done, I think.
Mm.
And it's a clip that gets shared around a lot too.
Yeah. And apparently that actually copped them like a lot of flack because they were
I
like,
wouldn't
"Oh,
be
what are you
surprised."
doing this for?" Yeah, like, "What are you doing this for in a kid show?"
It's a family show. It's not just for kids.
Mm.
No, at this point, it was still considered a kid show.
I know that the BBC considered
was
it a kid show,
True, although maybe
And
they can
Raiders of the Lost
consider it
Ark was rated PG.
foreshadowing for how dark the next 2 seasons would get at times.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I see a thing here with the melting face and the outer skin they put on it.
Mm.
When I searched for Kane, like that was like the majority of the responses were of that scene. Like
That
in
scene,
Angel
yeah,
Williams.
because it's just that scene. That scene just that
Yeah, you
gets an
see,
effect you don't forget.
what did you use for an opening bump, by the way? Because
I
you didn't
used
post it to the channel.
I used the Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze stuff.
the
I
what?
used hello everyone, chew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that when I made the rip-off Mr. Freeze joke in the opening.
Perfect.
But,
I was going to try to do a thing where I worked in a cold pun in every sentence, but it was kind of hard to do that and give my review responses. so-
yeah. No, I had said I had said in the opening bump to hello, Ace is out of time and Mr. Freeze ripoffs, and not
Yeah.
knowing he had done that.
I mean, I
Personally,
Mhm.
for an opening bump, I would have used that final scene from Raiders and see if you could splice in the face melt from our from Kane in there.
I had an
Can't
idea that you could do the face mode from Kane, but dub in the Colossus yell
Colossus yell.
from the X-Men arcade game.
Oh, the arcade game. Hurrah!
I can't get revenge. I better kill myself.
Anyway, Aaron, do you have a favorite scene that
Oops.
hasn't been mentioned?
Yes, I do actually. King goes to the doctor. He's holding Ace hostage. You're wasting my time. The Dragonfire is mine now. You can either give it to me alive, or I shall take it from your dead bodies. And the doctor goes, the logic is inescapable.
Again, the doctor obviously toying with him.
All right. I'm going to pass because Tim mentioned mine, and every
I'm
other
sorry.
scene I would have used would have been what came up at some point or another in this. So let's go to least favorite scene, and Tim's up first, and see if he gets to the elephant in the room or if he's going to pass that on to somebody else. So Tim, up to you. Least favorite scene.
I have a sinking feeling that my first choice is someone else's first choice too, so I'm gonna skip to my second choice, and that is the scene where just before Kane melts, when the doctor says, "Your people have been dead for 1,000 years," and Kane is all like, "Oh, we'll see about this," and then he just kills himself. It's like, wait, you made it.
Was
you
there
seemed
more
like
to
you
the
were
story?
Yeah, like
Did we skip
you
a
were
page?
gonna like do something, like you had like an ace up your sleeve, or no.
No, it would have been nice if he had looked at a
Ace.
scanner and it just would have been like, no, kind of, disbelief. And then, just hit the wrong switch and staggered into the light would have made more sense.
Although
Then-
maybe
mean,
that.
tech-
Go ahead.
Than simply the I'll show this flash die. I mean,
Right.
it just didn't make sense.
Well,
Maybe
like,
that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
What have
I
you
keep
two?
talking at the same time as you.
I mean, the whole thing is that he's basically accepted what the doctor's saying, so he's like, well, I can't get my revenge, fuck it, and then kills himself.
Which
But
is
they-
still
it's
stupid.
It's not really dialogued that way.
No, it's not.
Maybe the ending was scripted to be in the 4th episode.
I mean, like,
Oops.
from what I can tell, there was a lot of production rushing on this one, so
On this season.
not really surprised if-
They still weren't used to the 3-episode format.
yeah. So I'm not really surprised that some stuff might have not come out the way it was intended to.
Speaking of rushed production, I'm seeing some headgear on some of the people in the background at the restaurant again, and I'd swear I'm seeing a headdress that was left over from the Narnia shows they did.
Probably. Saved him money.
Probably, yeah. I swear it's something out of Lion Witch of the Wardrobe or the Silver Chair or something. Speaking of which, I need to watch those again. Anyway.
All right, so Thomas, your least favorite season?
You know, it's funny because there is one that like someone's gonna say, but to me it's actually not because I find it funny, especially knowing the actual context of what's supposed to be going on. So I think I'm actually gonna go with Mel's goodbye. Actually, because that was just so weird.
Yeah.
To me, like how the Doctor is so like just dismissive for the most part.
Speaking of which, the first thing she says about that goodbye is, "Well, I guess it's time," right? Like she doesn't actually hint that there will be a time, right?
Yeah, like it is. Yeah, it's all. Yeah, it is kind of like rushed as well. Cause, like,
just
the
kind of
end
out of nowhere.
Yeah, like the end of it is nice, but everything leading up to the end of it is just like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, it's kind of very, very, very hacked on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Ian Briggs didn't even write it. It was John Nathan Turner splicing it in, or
Possibly.
who was the
well,
script
actually,
editor? Andrew Cartmel just splicing it in at the last minute.
From what I can tell, it is actually that Sylvester McCoy wanted it to be that because that was his audition piece.
Actually, was it even
the
Cartmel?
farewell.
Because I thought this season didn't have a script editor.
No,
Like I
it
thought
says
they were looking for
did.
one.
it says
Okay.
script editor Andrew Cartmel.
Oh,
So-
okay. Because I
It
remember
was like-
something about a period where like Sayward quit and they were trying to find someone.
That was in the middle of Trial of a Time Lord.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Cartmel had the whole Seventh Doctor era.
Yeah, Cartmel
Mhm.
signed in pretty much right after the 18-month pause.
Yeah. But I guess at the same time, it also doesn't help that the person who wrote this had to write two endings for this in a different story because they weren't sure if they were going to go with Ace or a different character. So there was a version of this written where Mel stayed and Ace left, and then the version that we got, which has Ace leaving, Mel leaving and Ace staying.
Who was the other character that they thought were thinking of?
I forget exactly, but it's like a character that would have been in like a serial that came after this, I think.
Oh, okay.
Because like they were both being written at the same time.
Mhm.
It was like
Probably
very
season
similar
nine.
characters too, I think.
Let's see. Which one would have been after this? Because this was the season. They didn't know which one was going to be the season finale. I bet
Right
you...
before this was Paradise Towers, I think.
No, right before this was Delta and the Bannermen,
was
but I
Oh.
bet production might have been Paradise Towers.
Okay.
Because I could have seen them choosing to take on one of the Red Kangs.
Maybe if we review Delta and the Bannerman, I'll actually remember what happens in it because I've watched it 3 times just to remember what happens, and I still can't.
Yeah, I stopped paying attention during Delta and the Bannermen because it's like it's a freaking boring episode for me.
It's like it probably stars the Silent Priest because I just can't remember anything that happens.
Yeah, it's for me. It's just I don't know. It's one of those episodes. I've tried to watch it in the 80s and I've tried to watch it in the 90s and I tried to watch it in the 2000s, and each time it's
Just
like I
fades
look
away.
at it and my brain just goes, I want to be doing something else.
It sounds like an episode I'll have to sit through just because everyone else forgets it. And then again, I had trouble trying to remember this episode for some reason in the middle. I don't know. My brain works in mysterious ways some days. Actually, I also blame my stress from this afternoon. But anyway.
Mm.
I'm not a happy
Anyway,
afternoon.
but no, I could see if they had, if production wise, because they don't always air them in their production order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if they would also had been prepping Paradise Towers to be the finale of the Doctor taking on one of the Red Kangs and Mel choosing to stay and help everybody else try to work it out together in the towers. Would have made sense, but yeah, it's that is truly a clipped-on bit. All right, so who are we up to for least favorite scene?
Might
Bill,
be
I think,
me.
now.
Bill. Yeah,
Oh, no,
your
yeah,
least
Bill.
Me. So there's probably worse episodes, but the one I'm going to pick is kind of along the same lines. It bothers me because of being a fan of the character. But I can also explain it away as they didn't necessarily know what the future of Ace was going to be. But looking back at this, knowing Ace, that scene where she's like, begging them like to make the trade for her and like, oh no, don't let me die. Like, it's so out of character in
It is.
retrospect that I have to mention it.
Yeah, that was my dislike about the serial overall was Ace's characterization, though I did not bring that particular scene up.
Gotcha.
I mentioned I disliked her using Ace as an exclamation every time she thought something cool happened.
And I think they toned it down the following
they
season.
replaced it with
they
Wicked.
never fully got rid of it.
No, they replaced it with Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and
Right.
Wicked worked a lot better, but
Which is
using
funny
your
because
own
I think
nickname.
in this episode Mel uses Wicked.
She also
Maybe.
says Ace at least once.
Yeah, I personally, I don't know. It's just a little egocentrical to use your own nickname as your.
Well, I mean, I think
exclamation
that's
into
why
it.
she picked the nickname, but
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but it's still I.
yeah, I
know,
get you.
It just sounds bad. But yeah, I agree with you. That bit where she's being absolutely, oh please don't let me die. I'm only
Yeah.
16 was just kind of
Mhm.
like, no. What the?
Yeah,
I was watching that going, what the fuck?
And I get that, like, it was like basically written as a one-off character, like more or less at that point. And if they had written the following season first and then gone back, I'm sure it would have been different.
Mm-hmm.
But in retroactively, yeah,
Take
definitely.
take him out, Professor. Don't worry about me. Yeah, it would have been more
Mhm.
along that lines.
Yeah.
Like, or don't you dare give it to him, I think would have been her line.
Yeah, more along the lines of a typical heroine role in Doctor
Yeah.
Who, rather than absolute cowardice. Yeah, that does actually rub me the wrong way. Okay, Matt, your least favorite scene.
I'm trying to think of anything that really particularly annoyed me. I guess the one scene where they meet up with the dragon again after Ace and Mel already had their close encounter and then suddenly protected the Doctor and Glitz. And for no apparent reason whatsoever, it attacked Mel and Ace earlier, but now it's just perfectly fine with them being there.
Yeah, the dragon was kind of written a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell's going on there, but they
Now,
just completely missed
If
whatever
you take
key
out
was
the
going on
word
with them.
dragon and you put in the word episode or serial,
From
But
what I
no,
can tell,
the dragon just kind of had a few moments of what the hell's even up.
it doesn't help
think
that I
the-
don't think he is capable of dialogue.
It didn't talk as far as we were aware, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah, if they had
there
written it
seems
so
to be a
that-
logic of it'll attack people with weapons, but technically Mel
Is
and
this
Ace never had
Predators
visible weapons
or
to begin
Predator
with.
2?
And maybe it could detect
Yeah.
the Nitro 9, but that wouldn't explain why it wouldn't go after them later.
Yeah, because I don't think they used it all.
Like-
they only used a couple of them at the
well,
time.
they
this-
used it. They used it before they ran into it.
So they're going off the logic
think
from
as well.
Predator 2 where he killed everyone on the bus who was armed and left the one person who was unarmed.
Basically.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That one needs to be a little more consistently written. I'll agree.
hmm
So yeah, the further we get discussing about this, the less I'm liking the writing.
There's a few little holes I'm sticking my fingers through, but admittedly they're only little holes though.
Yeah, but they're starting to add up to a bigger.
Yeah.
It's starting to become a spider web here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, the interesting thing is, I think that the Mel scream at the dragon was supposed to be the actual cliffhanger for that one, but then they changed it.
Possibly.
Yeah.
If you
They changed
notice,
it to
the following the following episode starts with the Mel and Ace cliffhanger.
Yeah.
hmm
All right. So, Aaron, How about you? What's your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene. I
Ooh.
had it here. Ricardo, the other kind of subordinate, was just like hanging out and, well, I'm going to sabotage my boss and then just kind of hang out afterwards. And
Yeah,
then,
that was another one of mine.
He killed me. I should have probably run away,
I
shouldn't
should have
I?
probably thought about that.
It could have
broke
been
the
like an
controls, and ran.
illustration. It could have been an illustration of what slavery does to a person. It kind of kills your instincts to protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of kills your kind of logic to kind of think things through and be like, hey, it's fight or flight time, and I can't fight this guy, so I better run.
What would have been awesome had these people thought of this? And by that, I mean Cartmel and John Nathan Turner.
Mm-hmm.
What if they had made the bad guy in this a renegade Cryon?
Cryon. Oh, from the Cyberman episode?
Yes.
That would have been interesting.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
So that, the Cryons had imprisoned him here, and it was the fact that he knew where the planet was because he then realized that was the planet that the Cybermen took over. That was Telos.
Mm-hmm.
And especially considering a race as long lived as his, the Doctor should have been aware of and been, knowledgeable of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the thing is, the Doctor has so many experiences. I can see where his brain would be like, why is this ringing a bell and why isn't it coming up?
Mm.
And then it's like, Telos! Oh, of course! The ice tombs of Telos, the Cryons.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Cryon! And, that would have made this 80 billion times better.
Right.
But still,
Mm-hmm.
because at least then, you're getting some of this. Instead, they had to make this whole race and stuff for no reason. No, sorry, that just popped in my head, and I had to get it out
Mm-hmm.
with the whole thing. But yeah, the guy wasn't very smart in that. Okay, are we up to me now? For least favorite scene?
Should be.
Okay, so I will address the elephant in the room that everyone said. What I hated was the damn, hey, let me go hang by my umbrella off the freaking
I
cliff.
was actually
Yes,
just thinking of that too, and I got cut off.
It's like-
And I'm
You know,
like, no,
and-
wait, I'll see if someone else brings it up.
And if anyone watched the special features on the DVD, even the people who made the episode agree that that scene was complete trash.
Yeah.
We don't know what
I
we
mean,
were doing.
obviously, yeah, he's trying to get to another ledge, but it never looks like he's trying to get to another ledge. He's just...
He looks like
Yeah.
he's just hanging himself off a cliff for no discernible reason.
And,
Yeah,
the thing is, it looks like there's a ledge about 10 feet down in the scene where where you're seeing the cross-section of the cliff, but then they show it from the top down, and there's no ledge there.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and the thing I wonder about is that when he says to Glitz, "Glitz, help me!" all of a sudden, the next scene, Glitz is beneath him. It's like, wait, what is Glitz standing on?
Yeah.
Um.
It's a complete garbage scene. Now, if they had done something where the Doctor had slipped and actually fell off the ledge that way and managed to just hook his umbrella at the last second, I could have seen that as a proper cliffhanger if something happened to cause him to slip. But as
Yeah,
it was absolutely asininely stupid.
Mm.
Because,
Like-
okay, while they wanted to see there was another ledge there was no way of showing it.
Mm. From what I can recall, like the actual context, yeah, like the idea is even like the guy who wrote this, after the fact when he saw like what they ended up doing, he was like, "That's not what I wrote." And like, because they were being so rushed that they couldn't, that they either just the director didn't care or like whatever, and they just kind of did it and then just never got around to giving it proper context or something. Because like, from what I can tell, the idea is that he's just supposed to realize that the only way he can get any further than where he currently is by climbing down. But then he realizes that he can't reach the next ledge or something, so he's just kind of left hanging there or something. But yeah, like the the context of it's lost because they shot that, but then they forgot to actually give the context of why he's doing this.
Yeah, there's it's not really the best.
See, if anything, I would chalk it up to, despite the fact that season 22 is often considered to be the Doctor being unstable post-regeneration, season 24 in a lot of ways lives up to that same idea. His brain is all mixed up through much of this season.
Paradise Towers comes off okay, but that's really about the only serial that comes off okay. Anyway, so let's get to our final thoughts. Tim?
So, final thoughts. This episode was a brilliant one with a beautiful set that was beautifully photographed, an intriguing storyline, despite some hiccups some minor things that had no payoff. There was enough eye dressing to keep me visually entertained, and it was a good introduction of Ace, I think.
All right. Thomas?
Knowledge of the awkward cliffhanger aside and everything, like I went into this thinking, oh well, this will just be like maybe average at best, but I came out of this like, wow, I actually really enjoyed the hell out of this. I mean, like, it's not perfect in any way. It's probably not even one of the better ones, possibly. I don't know. But generally, I came out of this thinking, wow, this is a lot better than I've been led to believe it is. Oh, and as a note, the person that would have taken over instead of Ace was apparently a character called Ray in Delta and the Bannerman.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that during my final thoughts because I have it open in front of me.
And also, I actually, once I realized who it was, I friggin' just went nuts when I realized Patricia Quinn was in this, who played Magenta in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh yeah.
Magenta. Sweet.
She also played the hag in the Hawk, the Slayer.
But yeah, like I really enjoyed this. I'm kind of glad, knowing what I know about other stuff the character Mel does. I guess I'm kind of glad that this is my introduction. But I guess it's probably also a blessing and a curse because now it's probably all downhill.
Now it's all downhill from here.
All right, Bill?
So my reaction is the exact opposite to Thomas's. I came back into this, thinking like, hey, it's kind of an average episode. The three-parters are usually not the best, but it's the beginning of one of my favorite eras of Doctor Who. And as I watched it, I just this is the first episode I can think of that wasn't an absolute piece of garbage, but I was still able to sit there like, okay, I have a first, second, third, fourth option for what I disliked about the episode. Probably even more options for least favorite scene. Like I could have gone in Randy's position and picked a least favorite for everything. Not sure about best, but and just ultimately I just more and more disappointed by this episode. And looking at it, I think a lot of it has to do with the format. I think this was written to be a standard, what would a four-parter be? Hour and a half story, and they were just like, okay, now cut a quarter of it, and it really suffers for it.
A typical Doctor Who four-parter is about an hour 40. And this is about an hour 15.
Yeah, so. I get the impression that a lot of this episode was left on the cutting room floor one way or another, and
which makes you wish, by the way, that there was a director's cut.
Yeah. I mean, those scenes were probably never filmed, but
it would have been nice for them to be. Yeah.
But it comes off as a combination of rushed and poorly plotted as a result, and I mean, there are redeeming aspects of it, but it's probably my least favorite episode with Ace in it as a result.
Okay. Matt.
I will admit that there's certain plot holes and little moments here and there, and there's some sets that don't pan out as well as some of the later ones. But overall, it's a majorly enjoyable story. You can forgive some of the foibles because, especially with Ace, it's her first time, and they haven't quite figured her out yet. But they do know that they want her to become a companion, so they start hammering things out after this episode.
Well, they had the season break, which probably helped.
Which definitely probably helped, and they gave her more time to actually work out the character. The major plot points in this are pretty solid for the most part, except for it does seem like some things got needlessly trimmed, and also the production in some spots looks like it was needlessly pushed ahead without giving proper thought to finishing things off. That being said, again, it's a really enjoyable episode. I have found far more aggravating episodes to watch and far more boring episodes to watch, even when they're not just voice acting. So take it as you will. I think it's still a solidly good episode.
All right.
Also, I finally figured out who that guard was. His name is Chris MacDonald. Is the actor. And I forgot his name, but I had it on the list here.
Apparently credited as Amheim.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, because we are dreadfully low on time. Aaron.
I honestly didn't remember much about this serial except for the him hanging off of the cliff by the umbrella scene. So, yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and I guess I would recommend people see it because it is Ace's first episode, but it is a bit of a jumbled mess. An enjoyable jumbled mess, at least. So that's it for me.
All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that there are a few moments in this that are good, but there's a lot of it that just doesn't work. Pastel costumes on pastel backgrounds and very light pastel and light costumes, no, doesn't work. Because it all comes out kind of bland looking and boring. Writing needs to be a lot tighter when you're on such a budget. The only thing that really comes off on this is acting, which is, by the way, top notch for everybody. However, even that suffers a bit because of bad characterization, particularly of Ace. Ian Briggs's next entry into making Doctor Who is a lot better than this one. I can't say that this is anything really much above average, so so for me. Ratings, Tim.
Ratings, I give this 5 stars.
Of course you do. Because even though you admit it's flawed, you have to give it top notch. Thomas.
Because I like it better than I dislike it.
So
that makes it a 3.5.
Yeah, everything's black and white with you, Tim. It's either 5 stars or no stars.
I mean, it's no time lash.
I think I'm better than that.
Again, Thomas.
Yes.
I can honestly say I came very close to considering a 5 for this, but given some stuff that goes on in it that I'm not too keen on, I'm gonna drop it down slightly to a 4.5.
Seriously. Wow. Bill.
Sounds like my job is the balancing act today.
Yeah, this is going to be our first partisan vote, people.
Your comment about acting kept me from. I was considering a lower score, but you convinced me to stick with the one I was originally going to give, and that's a 2.5.
Ouch.
Wow.
Ooh.
Matt.
Let me just punch back here, Bill, with a 4.
All right, Aaron.
3.
Yeah, I agree with Aaron, and I'm going to give this a 3. It's kind of ho-hum. Which, between the glowing reviews on one side, the bitter, horrific review on the left side, and
It's not like I gave it a 1.5.
Darn near. When did
Darn
this
near.
thing kill your cat?
Well, no. 2.5
around
is
the
a bit
time-
below.
Around the
Below it.
time that they used the magic of cutting between scenes to escape captivity, when they were being held at gunpoint and then teleported to a new scene in a different location.
Well, I'm glad that happened. Thanks for getting me out of this, Batman. Now, they did do that a few times on Batman. Bite the fuck out of me. All right. So, with everything in there, out of a possible 254, Dragonfire comes in at 150. Solely because of Tim and Thomas.
What's the score?
What's that?
What's the score?
3.7.
Hmm.
It is on par with the Moonbase, the Daleks, Flatline, Master, the Innocent, the Evil One, Destroyer of Delights, Smile, the Claws of Axos. It is better than Fury from the Deep, The Gift, Resurrection of the Daleks, Full Circle, Tomb of the Cybermen, The Woman Who Lived, Dust Breeding, The Doctor, The Widow, The Wardrobe, Detained, and it is worse than Power of the Daleks, The Time Monster. Wow, it is worse than Extremis, Pyramid at the End of the World, Lie of the Land, Robot of Sherwood, The Red House, Day of the Daleks, Invasion Earth 2150, End of the World, Girl in the Fireplace, Enemy of the World, Invasion of the Bane, Ghost Light, Boomtown, and The Keeper of Traken. So there it is, 150 out of 254 reviewed, the bottom half of our ratings. That's all we have to say about Dragonfire.
Well, I mean, it's a Dalek invasion of Earth. What do you expect?
So, Bill?
All right. So if you enjoy listening to us, don't forget to follow us on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right. So next week we finished our classic Who companions, entrances, and exits. So we take our first sojourn into New Who as we say goodbye to the shortest run companion in Doctor Who and one of the least deserving. No, not Adric. It's The Long Game, written by Russell T. Davies and starring Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, Billy Piper as Rose Tyler, and Bruno Langley as Adam Mitchell. So, see you next week.
Mitchell.
Mitchell.